my channel. I'm Rachel, the owner and creator here at the Eclectic Cottage in Spokane, Washington. And yes, I got some black wax on the front of my shirt today, so please forgive my big stain. Anyway, for today's video, I had hoped to have a thrift haul for you guys, but my husband and I, even though we did go out on a small junk run on Sunday, really didn't come up with much. So I'm going to save everything we got until I can add it to some other things to give you guys a worthwhile thrift haul. So what I did instead is I pulled something out of my stash that I recently got from the Goodwill and I gave it a makeover. I'm really happy with how it came out. I hope you guys like it as much as I do. And without further ado, let's get to today's project. As soon as I saw this little bookcase at the Goodwill, I knew I wanted to buy it and give it a makeover. And one of the things I wanted to do to it was to add some height. I had these legs in my stash that I thought would be perfect. The only problem was that the metal plate that the legs attached to was too wide for the structural pieces that this bookcase came with. So I ended up having to remove those. Thankfully, they were just nailed in with a couple nails, and I would be replacing those later on. I also knew I wanted to do something to the back of this little bookshelf, and the easiest way to do that sometimes is to just remove the back so that you can decorate it easily and then reapply it later on, which is what I decided to do. So I'm just taking my scraper and going along where all the staples are and popping those up very carefully. And then I just pushed the backer board back down so that the staples would pop out, and I'm removing those with my little wire cutter. So I just made sure and got all of the staples out, and then I set that aside. Now, the part of this that I did not get on the video was I did, after this portion, I went ahead and cleaned this little bookcase. It wasn't very dirty, so I just gave it a quick bath with some clean water. Then it was on to paint, and for this I decided to go with one of the Cottage Colors by DIY. I thought it would be nice to have the built-in sealer just to add a little bit of protection right out of the gate for this. So I'm going here with Anvil, which is one of the newer Cottage Colors, and it's not quite black. It's more of a really dark charcoaly gray, like a graphite color, but I really like it. It's beautiful. The only thing that I will say about the Cottage Colors is they are definitely thinner than the regular DIY paints. So just be prepared if you go to paint something with one of the Cottage Colors to probably have to add at least one, if not two, more coats of paint than you would with the regular DIY. The benefit to these, though, is that you have the built-in sealer. So once you're done painting, there's really no need to go any further. So I gave this thing 3 good coats of this anvil. Yes, it took 3 coats to completely cover all the wood grain. And I did the inside and the outside, the shelf and the back of this little cabinet. You can see here the huge difference between the second coat and the first. And honestly, I think if this little cabinet weren't so heavily grained, I might have gotten away with just 2 coats of paint. Now, the other thing to note about the Cottage Colors is that you really need to stir them well before you use them. The other paints, the regular DIY paints, don't tend to separate much, but these Cottage Colors with that built-in sealer really do. So that is one of the keys to making sure you get a nice, even. Then I went ahead and painted all 4 legs. Originally, I had planned on staining these, but I thought since the cabinet was going to be such a dark color, a dark stain really wouldn't contrast very much. So I ended up going ahead and just using the paint. I did only have to go over these with 2 coats for good coverage, though. Next, it was time to decorate my backer board, and for that I chose this gorgeous transfer set by Redesign with Prima called Pastels Artistry. This set comes in 3 different sizes. For this project, I'm using the tube transfer, which is 24 inches by 35 inches. It comes in 2 sheets, so I am centering the top sheet, making sure that it's the right distance from the top on both sides, and then using a little tape to hold it into place. I just kind of moved off the second sheet, and then I cut off the excess paper so that I had an easy workable space. Then I like to just fold back that backer sheet, really crease it down well, and then I will lay my transfer back down so that part of it is stuck to my board. And then I simply peel back the rest of that while I smooth it out over my piece. This is an easier process than trying to peel the entire piece of paper off of the back and then lay it down without accidentally sticking portions of it to your piece. Then it's on to applying this portion of the transfer. I'm just using that transfer stick and just going across the piece a little bit at a time, rubbing with that transfer stick and pulling that piece of vellum back. And if I pull up any of the transfer, I simply just lay that piece of vellum back down and re-rub that spot until the transfer is completely adhered. This just takes some time. You just want to go slowly and carefully and make sure that all of your transfer is stuck down well. Once I have the first portion of this transfer completely adhered to my piece and the vellum completely removed, it's time to line up my second sheet. For this, I like to cut a little window out of that backer piece of paper so that I can really see where my lines are and where everything lines up. Once I had the bottom lined up with the top, I pushed that portion of the transfer down onto the backer board to make it stick, and then I went ahead again and just cut away the excess pieces. Then it was pretty easy to just lift the transfer and remove the rest of the paper. And then I just kind of rolled it down, pushing my hands on it to make sure that all of the transfer was stuck to my piece and there weren't any visible air bubbles. Then it's again on to using that transfer stick to apply the transfer to my piece. Once I'm done applying the transfer, I cut out a little piece of that vellum and I am just going over the entire transfer, rubbing it down really well to remove any air bubbles, make sure everything is adhered really well, and burnish it in. Once that was done, I decided I wanted to go over this with a layer of black wax by DIY. I like putting wax over my transfers. Number one, it helps to burnish them in even better. It helps remove some of the halos that are around the transfer. And for this piece, honestly, it helped richen that color a little for me. So I just applied a nice layer of the black wax over the entire thing, rubbing it in really well with my brush. And then I am simply removing the excess with a dry shop towel, just wiping it back really, really well to get rid of any excess wax. Then it was time to reinstall my backer board, and for that I'm just using my little brad nailer and shooting some nails into this backer board to keep it in place. Then it was time to work on the feet. Now, as I'd mentioned, the little boards that were underneath weren't wide enough for my metal brackets for my legs. So I picked this board out of my stash and I measured how long I needed my pieces to be. But before I cut it, I went ahead and cleaned it up a little. It was kind of dingy with some sandpaper and my palm sander. Then I measured out the strips that I needed, which happened to be 9 inches, and cut those out with my miter box saw. Once I had those done, I again took my little brad nailer and just nailed those into place on either end of my bookshelf so that I had a good base for my little brackets for my legs. Then I had to attach the brackets to the legs themselves using screws that came with them. So this is me just screwing those brackets onto the legs. And then I took the legs and I pre-drilled the holes where I wanted them to go. This keeps the wood underneath from splitting when you go to put your screws in. I did the same procedure for all 4 legs, and then it was really easy to just screw them down. Now, honestly, I really didn't know if I was going to like these legs on this little bookshelf, but I have to say I thought they looked really nice when I stood it up. Now, as a final step, even though it wasn't necessary, I went ahead and gave the entire thing a coat of DIY's black wax. I did this not only so that the rest of it would match the backer board that I had done, but also because I really liked the way that the black wax helped richen the color of this anvil paint. So I'm just applying one good coat of this black wax everywhere on this piece. I'm brushing that on with this wax brush, giving it a little bit of elbow grease to work it down into all of the wood grain. And once I have a side covered, I'm going back with a dry shop towel and just wiping all of the excess wax back off of the piece. Now, I tend to use a lot of waxes on my projects because I really like the matte finish that I get with them, as well as the touch of softness that they give my pieces. Now, keep in mind any of the paint and products you're seeing me use on this project can be purchased through me at my website, and that's www.theeclecticcottagespokane.com. Once I'd finished waxing the body of this little bookcase, I went ahead and tackled the legs and gave them all a good coat of wax and wiped that back with a shop towel. And lastly, it was time to do the shelf. So again, just one good coat of wax, wiped it back with a shop towel, and then this little piece is finally finished. I absolutely love the way it came out, and I hope you guys do too. That's it from here for today, you guys. I hope you liked my little bookcase makeover. I know I was kind of worried about the feet. I was worried they were going to be too big and too close together, but I think that they ended up being pretty perfect for that little bookshelf, and I really like the amount of height that they give. So it made me really happy when it was all finished. And the good news is I had a friend that came in this morning to visit, and she fell in love with it. So it's already sold, you guys. So hallelujah for that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up. I so appreciate that. And if you haven't already, I would really love it if you would subscribe to my channel and then just hit the little notification bell so you don't miss anything. And then don't forget to drop a comment below and let me know what you thought of my little bookshelf makeover for today. Also, just a quick reminder, any of the paint and products you saw me use can be purchased through me at my website, and that's www.theeclecticcottagespokane.com. I have an order of Sweet Pickins milk paint on its way to replenish some of the things that are out of stock currently. I also placed my order for the new DIY paint colors, as well as some more DIY paint and products. So I can hardly wait to show you guys the new colors. And then I also carry Roycycle Treasures decoupage papers, as well as some Redesign with Prima. So go to my website and check those out there. For Saturday's video, it will probably be another thrift flip or a furniture flip, depending on what I pull out of my stash. So I hope you'll join me back here for that. Until then, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week and beginning of the weekend, and I will see you back here on Saturday. Thanks so much for being here. Bye.